Are you?
Not quite. Just a moment. It will start
Okay.
momentarily. All right, Mr. Chair, you're recording.
Thank you so much. And I will call to order the meeting of the Municipality of Anchorage Board of Adjustment. This is a regularly scheduled special meeting, and I think it was noticed. So I would like the clerk to first call the roll, please.
Mr. Deek.
Present.
Mr. Guchow.
Present.
Ms. Peace.
Here.
Mr. Stewart.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. We should also note that Dennis Wheeler, the attorney for the board in this particular case that we will be talking about, is present, as well as Jennifer Klassen, the clerk.
Mr. Chairman, sorry to
Yes.
interrupt, but Jennifer, usually when Teams is recording, I can see the recording icon. Are you seeing the recording icon on your side? You're muted.
I do see it, Dennis.
Okay,
But you're
thank
right.
you.
It usually pops up on everyone's screen to let them know that they're recording. Can any of the board members see the blue bar along the top that says you're
Yep.
recording?
I can.
No,
Okay,
Interesting.
no, I don't.
Thank you for checking though, Dennis.
yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, but it appears we are on the record, Madam Clerk. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, we have to consider a particular item in the appeal case 2020-4. And in order to bring this, and that's the only agenda item that we will be considering today, we need to consider an appeal panel change, and we need to consider a date change. And those are basically two separate items. And in order to bring this to the floor, I will make a motion. And that is to change the appeal panel, considering case 2020-4, by deleting Bernd Gütschow and in his place putting in Thomas E. Could I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you so much. Let me tell you what is happening. I have a medical procedure coming up on March 15 that will take or will require me to be in the hospital for several days. And so I'm simply not able to consider the appeal that is presently scheduled for March 18. And it is for that reason that I request to be released from the panel. I would request that we place in Tomas Peak in my place. Ms. Peace? You seconded, that's why I'm calling for you first.
Yes, I approve the change.
Okay.
And sorry to hear of your
Well,
coming procedure.
it is something that is inevitable, but has to be attended. Anybody else wishing to be considered? Mr. Deek?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to put on the record that Mr. Chair reached out to me, and it's a doubly concerning issue, which of course I understand the health issues and wish you well when you are going through this procedure. And also, of course, the concern was originally when we talked about the case that I will have some pretty serious scheduling issues. So so I'm gonna have to work with you all to find the proper date, and I'm a bit concerned that we have to change the original scheduled date in order to move this forward. But looks like we don't really have much of a choice. So so I will be happy to do my part and step in.
Thank you, Mr. Deek. Mr. Stewart, any
Yes,
comment?
I concur.
Okay. Are we ready to vote on the motion? Apparently so. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll on the vote?
Mr. Deek.
Yes.
Mr. Guchow.
Yes.
Ms. Peace.
Yes.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously. The second thing we need to consider then is, as Mr. Deek stated, that we need to maneuver around the dates here. And Mr. Deek, apparently you're not available on March 18th, but you are available sometime later. Would you make a motion to change the date from March 18, 10 o'clock to whatever you think is feasible for you so that we can discuss that?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So I would I make the motion to adjust the currently published schedule for the case from March 18th. I offer two dates. One of them is, let me look, March 25th, and the other potentially April 8th, in order to keep on track and try to be as close as possible. Those are the ones I would propose.
Okay, I will second that motion. All right, Mr. D.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I am again looking at the scheduling, and in order to make sure that we do good by petitioners and the participants of this case, or the interested parties in this case, I would move to adjust on either of those based on discussion in order to keep it as close as we can to the original scheduled hearing date.
And that would be March 25. That's the closest date. So
The closest is March 25, and the other April 8, based on the discussion we're gonna have here.
Okay, I seconded the motion just for discussion purposes. I too would like to have this appeal considered as promptly after the originally scheduled date. So my preference would be March 25. Now, we were also talking about a slight time change, Mr. Deek, isn't that correct?
Let me just check. I think
On March 25.
yeah, I'm looking at it. It would be just a second. It would be 10 a.m.
Oh, okay. So no
Same.
time change. All right. And that would be the preferred date so far. May I hear from the other panel members, please? Ms. Pease?
Yes,
Are
I'm
you
fully
available?
available on March 25th. I'm also available on April 8th.
Okay, Mr. Stewart?
I'm available on both days.
Okay. What would be your preferred dates? The motion right now prefers the date of March 25 at 10 a.m. So unless I hear an amendment to the motion, that's what should be.
No, I think in the expediency to get this on the record and get moving with it, we should do it on the 25th.
Okay. So the only other thing we need to consider is, Mr. Wheeler, are you available on that day?
I am, Mr. Chairman, and I raised my hand to make one additional comment that perhaps the municipal clerk's Jennifer could answer. And that is, now that the appeal cycle is complete, we just received the reply brief from the appellant this morning. So that would make it appear to me that the appeal cycle is done. The clerk needs to take the record and the briefing and combine that into a packet for you. And once you set the hearing date, get that published in a notice in the newspaper. I believe the 25th should be no problem for that work that she needs to do, but it might be worth just confirming that with her.
Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Yes, I believe we can make that work.
Very good. Anything else regarding the presently pending motion, which is to change the day of for considering the appeal from March 18, 2021 to March 25, 2021 at 10 a.m. Madam Clerk, first of all, are we ready to vote on the motion? Apparently we are. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Deek,
Yes.
Mr. Guchow,
Yes.
Ms. Peace,
Yes,
Mr. Stewart.
Yes,
Thank you, and the motion passes unanimously. The only other thing we need to consider is who is going to chair the meeting. And my suggestion is that since we have a vice chair, and that is Mr. Stewart, that Mr. Stewart will be presiding at the meeting. Mr.
And,
Stewart, is that agreeable with you?
I have no problem if Tomas wants to take over in your place. I see you smiling, Tomas.
Yeah, you're a gentleman and a scholar, but I think I'm gonna have to defer to procedure, and I would request that you take your vice chair position and make it into a chair for this case.
Okay.
And you are making that motion, correct? That was a motion.
It wasn't yet, but it can be.
Okay, would you please?
Yes, I would make the motion that Mr. Stewart will chair the meeting for the April 25th case, the hearing.
Thank you. Do I have a second for that? Ms. Peace?
second.
Thank you. Has been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion regarding that motion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you simply call the roll?
Mr. Deek,
Yes.
Mr. Guchel,
Yes,
Ms. Peace,
Yes,
Mr. Stewart.
Yes.
thank you so much, and the motion passes unanimously. Well, the next item that we usually have on the agenda when the specific items are covered is that we ask for comments from board members. So are there any items that board members would like to address at this point?
I didn't raise my hand, but let me jump in, Mr. Chair. This is Tamás Deák. I'm hopeful that I can hear some schedule on the brief, so when I could actually get the information. Do you, clerk or our subordinate attorney, Dennis, do you have any idea when that may be possible?
Mr. Wheeler?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Deek, presuming the packet can be put together by the clerk's office pretty quickly, I think I can stay on my original schedule, which is to prepare the bench brief during the week of, what is it, the 6th through the 13th, somewhere in there, as I had originally planned. So I think we'll stay on schedule because I have everything via email already in terms of the record and the briefing cycle. So I can get started right away, really. But I'll plan on having that bench brief done in that time period.
Mr. Deek, does that work for you?
Oh, it does work great, thank you. And then, of course, the next question is that it will be available digitally as originally planned. Is that correct?
Mr. Wheeler?
Yeah.
Madam Clerk, maybe we should address this to the clerk.
Yes, it will be available digitally. If anyone wants a hard copy, we can also do that as well.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Mr. Deek?
Yes, yes, it will definitely help in preparation. So that's why I'm hoping to get this resolved, and I'm very grateful that it's possible. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Wheeler, this will be the first case that you will be working on for the Board of Adjustment. The way this has worked in the past with your predecessors in this role of attorney for the board is that you send a draft of your brief to the chair. And that would be, in this case, Mr. Stewart. And so that the two of you can coordinate things to a certain extent in terms of expediting this so that this case doesn't get out of hand and stays on track, and so that not too many hours have to be spent on it. So if you would please contact Mr. Stewart first, send him a draft of your proposed brief, and then maybe you and he can talk on the telephone about any possible changes that you may suggest or want to suggest. Does that work for you?
Yes, sir, will do.
Okay, Mr. Stewart, does that make sense? That's how we have done this in the past.
Yeah, that makes sense. Dennis, do you have my cell phone? That's the one I prefer to work from.
How about we just email that separately?
Okay.
Okay, good. Any further comments, Ms. Pease?
Yes, so being new, I just want to make sure I have a full list of the materials I need to cover. And so I have the three-part record on appeal, volume 1, 2, and a supplement. And now it sounds to me as if I should also expect a reply brief from the appellant and then Mr. Wheeler's bench brief. And those will be available sometime in early March, March 6th to March 6th, 13th in the case of Mr. Wheeler. Is that correct? Is that the full list of materials?
Mr. Wheeler?
Yes, the only thing I would add to that is the appellant's opening brief and the appellee's response are going to be in the packet as well. So you have the record, which is the lower proceeding, and then the 3 briefings as part of the total packet.
And I will say the first 2 briefings were sent to you all via email. The reply brief we just received this week, and I'll get that out to you today. So those have been coming, I guess, piecemeal, although they will be part of the overall packet.
Now, Mr. Deek is somewhat at a disadvantage here because he has not received the record on appeal. So you and he need to get together and make sure that that gets to him promptly. Also, the briefs that have been filed.
Will do.
Okay.
Thank you, Jennifer. I was going to coordinate with you on that separately anyways, but thank
Okay.
you
Ms. Pease, anything further?
for your help.
No, I
On
can
that.
also email Ms. Venekalasan. Sorry if I mispronounced. Anyway, I prefer a hard copy.
What I have done on that, Nancy, is I have made arrangements with Jennifer to have the clerk, the clerk's office, the municipal clerk's office, have those records available, and then you can just pick them up.
Sure, I'm happy to
Will
do
that
that.
work for you?
Yes.
Okay, so just give her a call and agree on the time when you can pick it up.
Okay.
Anything further, Mr. Stewart? We have the disadvantage of not being able to see you. Is there anything else you wish to add at this point?
No, not at this point. There may be after I see these replies, but I don't think so.
Okay. Mr. Deek, anything further?
Nope, I'm all good. Thank you.
Okay. I have nothing further. Mr. Wheeler, anything further at this point?
No, sir.
Okay. Madam Clerk, anything further that we need to consider at this point?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. And I want to apologize to all of you for this inconvenience. It came somewhat unexpected, and it is something that I need to simply attend to. It's a health issue. So thank you very much for being available today and taking the time. And in 20 minutes, we have covered what we needed to cover. So unless there's anything further, we will stand adjourned. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We are adjourned.